All right. Hello, everybody. This is Genesis week 2. Um, so tonight, a few people were busy and couldn't make it. So, at least for the time being, it looks like it's just going to be me. So I'm not going to waste too much time. I'm going to get us started. We're picking up from Genesis chapter 11, and I think we're going to go to Genesis chapter 20. So, if you want to read along, I will go ahead and read it. Um, and yeah, you can kind of follow along as you see fit. Um, I will go ahead and get us started. Thank you for tuning in. If you're watching via YouTube, um, you know I'm happy to see you here. Just remember, Jesus loves you, and we are always in the Discord if you'd like to take part in the future. Um, yeah, we'd love to have you here. So, without further ado, so we're in Genesis chapter 11. The subtitle is The Tower of Babylon. The whole earth had the same language and vocabulary. As people migrated from the east, they found a valley in the land of Shinar and settled there. They said to each other, "Come, let's make oven-fired bricks." Oh my goodness, I can't speak tonight. Excuse me. Uh, they used brick for stone and asphalt for mortar. And they came, and they said, "Come, let's build ourselves a city and a tower with its top in the sky. Let's make a name for ourselves. Otherwise, we will be scattered throughout the earth." Then the Lord came down and took over the city and the tower that the humans were building. The Lord said, "If they have begun to do this as one people, all having the same language, then nothing they plan to do will be impossible for them. Come, let's go down there and confuse their language, so that they will not understand one another's speech." So, from there, the Lord scattered them throughout the earth, and they stopped building the city. Therefore, it is called Babylon. For there, the Lord confused the language of the whole earth, and from there, the Lord scattered them throughout the earth. From Shem to Abraham. These are the family records of Shem. Shem lived 100 years and fathered Ar- Arpachshad. That's probably a butchering of the name, but forgive me. 2 years after the flood, after he fathered, I'm going to call him Arpa, Shem lived 500 years and fathered other sons and daughters. Arpa lived 35 years and fathered Shelah. After he fathered Shelah, Arpa lived 403 years and fathered other sons and daughters. Shelah lived 30 years and fathered Eber. After he fathered Eber, Shelah lived 403 years and fathered other sons and daughters. Eber lived 34 years and fathered Peleg. After he fathered Peleg, Eber lived 430 years and fathered other sons and daughters. Peleg lived 30 years and fathered Ru. After he fathered Ru, Peleg lived 209 years and fathered other sons and daughters. Ru lived 32 years and fathered Serug. After he fathered Serug, Ru lived 207 years and fathered other sons and daughters. Serug lived 30 years and fathered Nahor. Probably butchering that too, but it sounded cool. After he fathered Nahor, Serug lived 200 years and fathered other sons and daughters. Nahor lived 29 years and fathered Terah. After he fathered Terah, Nahor lived 119 years and fathered other sons and daughters. Terah lived 70 years and fathered Abram, Nahor, and Haran. These are the family records of Terah. Terah fathered Abram, Nahor, and Haran fathered Lot. Haran died in his native land of the Ur of the Chaldeans. During his father's During his father Terah's lifetime, Abram and Nahor took wives. Abram's wife was named Sarai, and Nahor's wife was named Milcah. She was the daughter of Haran, the father of both Milcah and Iscah. Sarai was unable to conceive. She did not have a child. Terah took his son Abram, his grandson Lot, Haran's son, and his daughter-in-law Sarai, his son Abram's wife, and they set out together from Ur of the Chaldeans to go to the land of Canaan. But when they came to Haran, they settled there. Terah lived 205 years and died in Haran. Chapter 12. The Lord said to Abram, "Go from your land, your relatives, and your father's house, to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you. I will curse anyone who treats you with contempt. And all the peoples on earth will be blessed through you." So Abram went, and the Lord had told him, and Lot went. So Abram went as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he left Haran. He took his wife, Sarai, his nephew, Lot, and all the possessions they had accumulated, and the people they had acquired in Haran, and they set out for the land of Canaan. When they came to the land of Canaan, Abram passed through the land to the site of Shechem, at the oak of Moreh. At that time, the Canaanites were in the land. The Lord appeared to Abram and said, "To your offspring I will give this land." So he built an altar there to the Lord, and had appeared to him. From there he moved on to the hill, country east of Bethel, and pitched his tent. With Bethel in the west and Ai on the east, he built an altar to the Lord there, and he called on the name of the Lord. Then Abram journeyed by stages to the Negev. There was a time in the land, so Abram went down to Egypt to stay there for a while, because the famine in the land was severe. When he was about to enter Egypt, he said to his wife Sarai, "Look, I know what a beautiful woman you are. When the Egyptians see you, they will say, 'This is his wife.' They will kill me, but let you live. Please say you're my sister, so it will go well for me because of you, and my life will be spared on your account." When Abram entered Egypt, the Egyptians saw the woman was very beautiful. Pharaoh's officials saw her and praised her to Pharaoh. So the woman was taken to Pharaoh's household. He treated Abram well because of her, and Abram acquired flocks and herds, male and female donkeys, male and female slaves, and camels. But the Lord struck Pharaoh and his household with severe plagues because of Abram's wife, Sarai. So Pharaoh sent for Abram and said, "What have you done to me? Why didn't you tell me she was your wife? Why did you say she's my sister, so that I took her as my wife? Now, here is your wife. Take her and go." Then Pharaoh gave his men orders about him, and they sent him away with his wife and all he had. Chapter 13. Abram went up from Egypt to the Negev, he, his wife, and all he had, and Lot with him. Abram was very rich in livestock, silver, and gold. He went by stages from the Negev to Bethel, to the place between Bethel and Ai, where his tent had formerly been, to the site where he had built the altar, and Abram called on the name of the Lord there. Now, Lot, who was traveling with Abram, also had flocks, herds, and tents, but the land was unable to support them as long as they stayed together, for they had so many possessions that they could not stay together. And there was quarreling between the herdsmen of Abram's livestock and the herdsmen of Lot's livestock. At the time, the Canaanites and the Perizzites were living in the land. So Abram said to Lot, "Please, let's not have quarreling between you and me, or between our herdsmen and my herdsmen, since we are relatives. Isn't the whole land before you? Separate from me. If you go to the left, I will go to the right. If you go to the right, I will go to the left." Lot looked out and saw that the entire plain of the Jordan, as far as Zoar, was well watered everywhere, like the Lord's garden, and the land of Egypt. This was before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. So Lot chose the entire plain of the Jordan for himself. Then Lot journeyed eastward, and they separated from each other. Abram lived in the land of Canaan, but Lot lived in the cities on the plain, and set up his tent near Sodom. Now the men of Sodom were evil, sinning immensely against the Lord. After Lot had separated from him, the Lord said to Abram, "Look from the place where you are. Look north and south, east and west, for I will give you and your offspring forever all the land that you see. I will make your offspring like the dust of the earth, so that if anyone could count the dust of the earth, then your offspring could be counted. Get up and walk around the land through its length and width, for I will give it to you." So Abram moved his tent and went to live near the oaks of Mamre. Mamre? I'm not sure how to pronounce that. At Hebron, where he built an altar to the Lord. Chapter 14. In those days, King Amraphel of Shinar, King Arioch of Elasar, King Chered, I don't even begin to know how to say this word. Chedorlaomer of Elam, and King Tidal of Goim waged war against King Bera of Sodom, King Bersha of Gomorrah, King Shinab of Admah, and King Shember of Zeboim, as well as the king of Bela. Bela? Probably is more how it would be pronounced, I suppose. Bela. That is Zoar. All of these came as allies to the Siddim Valley, that is the Dead Sea. They were subject to Chedorlaomer for 12 years, but in the 13th year, they rebelled. In the 14th year, I'm going to call him Chedo, because that name is probably, that's the most difficult name I've ever seen in the Bible. But I digress. In the 14th year, Chedo and the kings who were with him came and defeated Rephaim in Ashtoreth Karanaim, the Zuzim in Ham, the Emim in Shavah Kiriathaim, and the Horites in the mountains of Seir, as far as El Paran by the wilderness. Then they came back to invade En Misfat, that is Kadesh, and they defeated the whole territory of the Amalekites, as well as the Amorites who lived in Hazan Tamar. Then the king of Sodom, the king of Gomorrah, the king of Admah, the king of Zeboim, the king of Bela, that is Zoar, went out and lined up for battle in the Siddim Valley against King Chedo of Elam, King Tidal of Goim, King Amapharel of Shinar, the king Arioch of Elasar, 4 kings against 5. Now the Siddim Valley contained many asphalt pits, and as the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled, some fell into them, but the rest fled to the mountains. The 4 kings took all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah, and all their food, and went on. They also took Abram's nephew Lot and his possessions, for he was living in Sodom. And they went on. One of the survivors came and told Abram, the Hebrew, who lived near the oaks belonging to the Mamre, the Amorite, the brother of Eshcol, and the brother of Aner. They were bound by a treaty with Abram. When Abram heard that his relative had been taken prisoner, he assembled his 318 trained men born in his household, and they went in pursuit as far as Dan. And he and his servants deployed against them by night, defeated them, and pursued them as far as Hobah, to the north of Damascus. He brought back all the goods, and also his relative Lot, and his goods as well as the women and other people. After Abram returned from defeating Chedo and the kings who were with him, the king of Sodom went out to see him, or to meet him, in the Savah Valley, that is, the King's Valley. Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought out bread and wine. He was a priest to God Most High. He blessed him and said, Abram is blessed by God Most High, creator of heaven and earth, and blessed be God Most High, who has handed over your enemies to you. And Abram gave him a tenth of everything. Then the king of Sodom said to Abram, Give me the people, but take the possessions for yourself. But Abram said to the king of Sodom, I have raised my hand in an oath to the Lord, God Most High, creator of heaven and earth, that I will not take a thread or sandal strap or anything that belongs to you. So you can never say, I made Abram rich. I will take nothing except what the servants have eaten. But as for the share of the men who came with me, Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre, they can take their share. Chapter 15, the Abrahamic Covenant. After these events, the word of the Lord came to Abram. In a vision, do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield. Your reward will be very great. But Abram said, Lord God, what can you give me, since I am childless? And the heir of my house is Eliezer of Damascus. Abram continued, Look, you have given me no offspring, so a slave born in my house will be my heir. Now the word of the Lord came to him, This one will be your heir. This one will not be your heir. Instead, one who comes from your own body will be your heir. He took him outside and said, Look at the sky and count the stars. If you are able to count them, then he said to him, Your offspring will be that numerous. Abram believed the Lord, and he credited it to him as righteousness. He also said to him, I am the Lord who brought you from Ur to the Chaldeans to give you this land to possess. But he said, Lord God, how can I know that I will possess it? He said to him, Bring me a 3-year-old cow, a 3-year-old female goat, a 3-year-old ram, a turtle dove, and a young pigeon. So he brought all these to him, cut them in half, and laid the pieces opposite of each other. But he did not cut the birds in half. Birds of prey came down on the carcasses, but Abram drove them away. As the sun was setting, a deep sleep came over Abram, and suddenly a great terror and darkness descended on him. Then the Lord said to Abram, Know this for certain. Your offspring will be resident aliens for 400 years in a land that does not belong to them, and will be enslaved and oppressed. However, I will judge the nation they serve, and afterwards they will go out with many possessions. But you will go to your ancestors in peace, and be buried at a good old age. In the 4th generation they will return here, for the iniquity of the Amorites has not yet reached its full measure. When the sun had set and it was dark, A smoking fire pot and a flaming torch appeared and passed between the divided animals. On that day the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying, I give you this land to your offspring, from the brook of Egypt to the great river, the Euphrates River, the land of the Kenites, Kenizzites, Kadamites, Hethites, Perizzites, Rephaim, Amorites, Canaanites, Girgashmites, and Jebusites. Chapter 16. Abram's wife, Sarai, had not borne any children for him, but she owned an Egyptian slave named Hagar. Sarai came to Abram. Since the Lord has prevented me from bearing children, go to my slave. Perhaps through her I can build a family. And Abram agreed to what Sarai said. So Abram's wife, Sarai, took Hagar, her Egyptian slave, and gave her to her husband, and Abram as a wife for him. This happened after Abram had lived in the land of Canaan 10 years. He slept with Hagar, and she became pregnant. When he saw that she was pregnant, her mistress became contemptible to her. Then Sarai said to Abram, You are responsible for my suffering. I put my slave in your arms. And when she saw that she was pregnant, I became contemptible to her. May the Lord judge between me and you. Abram replied to Sarai, Here, your slave is in your power. Do whatever you want with her. Then Sarai mistreated her, so much that she ran away from her. The angel of the Lord found her by a spring in the wilderness, the spring on the way to Shur. He said, Hagar, slave of Sarai, where have you come from, and where are you going? She replied, I'm running away from my mistress, Sarai. The angel of the Lord said to her, Go back to your mistress and submit to her authority. The angel of the Lord said to her, I will greatly multiply your offspring, and they will be too many to count. The angel of the Lord said to her, You have conceived and will have a son. You will name him Ishmael. For the Lord has heard your cry of affliction. This man will be like a wild donkey. His hand will be against everyone, and everyone's hand will be against him. He will settle near all his relatives. So she named the Lord who spoke to her, You are El Roi, she said. For she said, In this place have I actually seen the one who sees me? That is why the well is called Bir Lahai Roi. It is between Kadesh and Bered. So Hagar gave birth to Abram's son, and Abram named his son, whom Hagar bore, Ishmael. Abram was 86 years old when Hagar bore Ishmael to him. Chapter 17. When Abram was 99 years old, the Lord appeared to him, saying, I am God Almighty. Live in my presence and be blameless. I will set up my covenant between me and you, and I will multiply you greatly. Then Abram fell face down, and God spoke with him. As for me, here is my covenant with you. You will become the father of many nations. Your name will no longer be Abram. Your name will be Abraham. For I will make you the father of many nations. I will make you extremely fruitful, and will make nations and kings come from you. I will confirm my covenant that is between me and you and your future offspring throughout their generations. It is a permanent covenant to be your God and the God of your offspring after you, and to you and your future offspring I will give the land where you are residing, all the land of Canaan, as a permanent possession, and I will be their God. One moment, I need to take a drink. God also said to Abraham, As for you and your offspring, after your after you throughout their generations are to keep my covenant. This is my covenant between me and you and your offspring. After you, which you are to keep, every one of your males must be circumcised. You must circumcise the flesh of your foreskin to serve as a sign of the covenant between me and you. Throughout your generations, every male among you is to be circumcised at 8 days old. Every male born in your household or purchased from any foreigner, and not your offspring. And not your offspring. Whether born in your household or purchased, he must be circumcised. My covenant will be marked in your flesh as a permanent covenant. If any male is not circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, that man will be cut off from his people. He has broken my covenant. God said to Abraham, As for your wife Sarai, do not call her Sarai. For her, Sarah will be her name. I will bless her, indeed. I will give you a son by her. I will bless her, and she will produce nations. Kings of peoples will come from her. Abraham fell face down. Then he laughed and said to himself, Can a child be born to a 100-year-old man? Can Sarah, a 99-year-old woman, give birth? So Abraham said to God, If only Ishmael were acceptable to you. But God said, No, your wife Sarah will bear you a son, and you will name him Isaac. I will confirm my covenant with him as a permanent covenant for his future offspring. As for Ishmael, I have heard you. I will certainly bless him. I will make him fruitful and will multiply him greatly. He will father 12 tribal leaders, and I will make him into a great nation. But I will confirm my covenant with Isaac, whom Sarah will bear to you at this time next year. When he finished talking with him, God withdrew from Abraham. So Abraham took his son Ishmael and those born in his household, or purchased every male among the members of Abraham's household, and he circumcised the flesh of their foreskin. On that very day, just as God had said to him, Abraham was 99 years old when the flesh of his foreskin was circumcised, and his son Ishmael was 13 years old when the flesh of his foreskin was circumcised. On that very day, Abraham and his son Ishmael were circumcised, and all the men of his household, whether born in his household or purchased from a foreigner, were circumcised with him. Chapter 18. The Lord appeared to Abraham at the oaks of Mamre. While he was sitting at the entrance of his tent during the heat of the day, he looked up and he saw 3 men standing near him. When he saw them, he ran from the entrance of the tent to meet them, bowed to the ground, and said, My Lord, if I have found favor with you, please do not go on past your servant. Let a little water be brought, that you may wash your feet and rest yourselves under the tree. I will bring a bit of bread, so that you may strengthen yourselves. This is why you have passed your servant's way. Later you can continue on. Yes, they replied. Do as you have said. So Abraham hurried into the tent and said to Sarah, Quick, knead me 3 measures of fine flour and make bread. Abraham ran to the herd and got a tender, choice calf. He gave it to a young man who hurried to prepare it. Then Abraham took curds and milk, as well as the calf that he had prepared, and set them before the men. He served them as they ate under the tree. Sarah laughs. Where is your wife Sarah? They asked him. There, in the tent, he answered. The Lord said, I will certainly come back to you in about a year's time, and your wife Sarah will have a son. Now Sarah was listening at the entrance of the tent behind him. Abraham and Sarah were old and getting on in years. Sarah had passed the age of childbearing, so she laughed to herself. After I am worn out and my Lord is old,
will I have delight? But the Lord asked Abraham, why did Sarah laugh, saying, can I really have a baby when I'm old? Is anything impossible for the Lord? At the appointed time, I will come back to you, and in about a year, she will have a son. Sarah denied it. I did not laugh, she said, because she was afraid. But he replied, no, you did laugh. The men got up from there and looked out over Sodom, and Abraham was walking with them to see them off. Then the Lord said, should I hide what I am about to do from Abraham? Abraham is to become a great and powerful nation, and all nations of the earth will be blessed through him. For I have chosen him, so that he will command his children and his house after him to keep the way of the Lord by doing what is right and just. This is how the Lord will fulfill to Abraham what he promised him. Then the Lord said, the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is immense, and their sin is extremely serious. I will go down to see if what they have done justifies the cry that has come up to me. If not, I will find out. The men turned from there and went toward Sodom, while Abraham remained standing before the Lord. Abraham stepped forward and said, will you really sweep away the righteous with the wicked? What if there were 50 righteous people in the city? Will you really sweep it away instead of sparing the place for the sake of the 50 righteous people who are in it? You could not possibly do such a thing, to kill the righteous with the wicked, treating the righteous and the wicked alike. You could not possibly do that. Won't the judge of the whole earth do what is just? The Lord said, if I find 50 righteous people in the city of Sodom, I will spare the whole place for their sake. Then Abraham answered, since I have ventured to speak to my Lord, even though I am dust and ashes, suppose the 50 righteous lack 5. Will you destroy the whole city for lack of 5? He replied, I will not destroy it if I find 45 there. Then he spoke to him again. Suppose 40 are found there. He answered, I will not do it on account of 40. Then he said, let my Lord not be angry, and I will speak further. Suppose 30 are found there. He answered, I will not do it if I find 30 there. Then he said, since I have ventured to speak to my Lord, suppose 20 are found there. He replied, I will not destroy it if on account of 20. Then he said, let my Lord not be angry, and I will speak one more time. Suppose 10 are found there. He answered, I will not destroy it on account of 10. When the Lord had finished speaking with Abraham, he departed, and Abraham returned to his place. Chapter 19, the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. 2 angels entered Sodom in the evening as Lot was sitting in Sodom's gateway. When Lot saw them, he got up to meet them. He bowed with his face to the ground and said, my lords, turn aside to your servant's house, wash your feet, and spend the night. Then you can get up early and go on your way. No, they said, we would rather spend the night in the square. But he urged them so strongly that they followed him and went into his house. He prepared a feast and baked unleavened bread for them, and they ate. Before they went to bed, the men of the city of Sodom, both young and old, the whole population, surrounded the house. They called out to Lot and said, where are the men who came to you tonight? Send them to us so that we can have sex with them. Lot went out at the entrance and shut the door behind him. He said, don't do this evil, my brothers. Look, I've got 2 daughters who haven't been intimate with a man. I'll bring them out to you, and you can do whatever you want to them. However, don't do anything to these men, because they have come under the protection of my roof. Get out of my way, they said, adding, this one came here as an alien, but he's acting like a judge. Now we'll do more harm to you than to them. They put pressure on Lot and came up to break down the door, but the angels reached out, brought Lot into the house with them, and shut the door. They struck the men who were at the entrance of the house, both young and old, with blindness, so that they were unable to find the entrance. Then the angel said to Lot, "Do you have anyone else here, a son-in-law, your sons and daughters, or anyone else in the city who belongs to you? Get them out of this place, for we are about to destroy this place because the outcry against its people is so great before the Lord that the Lord has sent us to destroy it." So Lot went out and spoke to his sons-in-law, who were going to marry his daughters. "Get up," he said. "Get out of this place, for the Lord is about to destroy the city." But his sons-in-law thought that he was joking. At daybreak, the angels urged Lot on. "Get up, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, or you will be swept away in the punishment of the city." But he hesitated because of the Lord's compassion for him. The men grabbed his hand, his wife's hand, and the hands of his 2 daughters. They brought him out and left him outside the city. As soon as the angels got them outside, one of them said, "Run for your lives. Do not look back. And don't stop anywhere on the plain. Run to the mountains, or you will be swept away." But Lot said to them, "No, my lords, please. Your servant has indeed found favor with you, and you have shown me great kindness by saving my life, but I can't run to the mountains. The disaster will overtake me, and I will die. Look, this town is close enough for me to flee to. It is a small place, but let me run to it. It's only a small place, isn't it? So that I can survive." And he said to him, "All right, I'll grant your request. About this matter, too, and will not demolish the town you mentioned. Hurry up, run to it, for I cannot do anything until you get there. Therefore, the name of the city is Zoar." The sun had risen over the land when Lot reached Zoar. Then out of the sky the Lord rained on Sodom and Gomorrah burning sulfur from the Lord. He demolished these cities, the entire plain, all the inhabitants of the cities, and whatever grew on the ground. But Lot's wife looked back and became a pillar of salt. Early in the morning, Abraham went to the place where he had stood before the Lord. He looked down toward Sodom and Gomorrah and all the land of the plain, and he saw that smoke was going up from the land like the smoke of a furnace. So it was when God destroyed the cities of the plain, he remembered. He remembered Abraham and brought Lot out of the middle of the upheaval when he demolished the cities where Lot had lived. Lot departed from Zoar, lived in the mountains along with his 2 daughters, because he was afraid to live in Zoar. Instead, he and his 2 daughters lived in a cave. Then the firstborn said to the younger, "Our father is old, and there is no man in the land to sleep with us, as is the custom of all the land. Come, let's get our father to drink wine, so that we can sleep with him and preserve our father's line." So they got their father to drink wine that night, and the firstborn came and slept with her father. He did not know when she lay down or when she got up. The next day the firstborn said to the younger, "Look, I slept with my father last night. Let's get him to drink wine again tonight, so you can go sleep with him, and we can preserve our father's line." That night they again got their father to drink wine, and the younger went and slept with him. He did not know when she lay down or when she got up. So both of Lot's daughters became pregnant by their father. The firstborn gave birth to a son and named him Moab. He is the father of the Moabites of today. The younger also gave birth to a son and named him Ben-Ami. He is the father of the Ammonites of today. Chapter 20. Sarah rescued from Abimelech. From there, Abraham traveled to the region of Negev and settled between Kadesh and Shur. While he was staying in Gerar, Abraham said about his wife Sarah, "She is my sister." So King Abimelech of Gerar had Sarah brought to him. But God came to Abimelech in a dream by night and said to him, "You are about to die because of the woman you have taken, for she is a married woman." Now Abimelech not approached had not approached her. So he said, "Lord, would you destroy a nation even though it is innocent? Didn't he himself say to me, 'She is my sister?' And she herself said, 'He is my brother.' I did this with a clear conscience and clean hands." Then God said to him in the dream, "Yes, I know that you did this with a clear conscience. I have also kept you from sinning against me. Therefore I have not let you touch her. Now return the man's wife, for he is a prophet, and he will pray for you, and you will live. But if you do not return her, know that you will certainly die, you and all who are yours." Early in the morning, Abimelech got up, called all of his servants together, and personally told them all these things, and the men were terrified. Then Abimelech called Abraham in and said to him, "What have you done to us? How did I sin against you that you have brought such enormous guilt on me and on my kingdom? You have done things to me that should never be done." Abimelech also asked Abraham, "What made you do this?" Abraham replied, "I thought there is absolutely no fear for God in this place. They will kill me because of my wife. Besides, she really is my sister and the daughter of my father, though not the daughter of my mother. And she became my wife. So when God had me wander from my father's house, I said to her, 'Show your loyalty to me wherever we go, and say about me, he is my brother.' Then Abimelech took flocks and herds and male and female slaves, gave them to Abraham, and returned his wife Sarah to him. Abimelech said, 'Look, my land is before you. Settle wherever you want.' And he said to Sarah, 'Look, I am giving your brother 1,000 pieces of silver. It is a verification of your honor to all who are with you. You are fully vindicated.' Then Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Abimelech, his wife, and his female slaves, so that they could bear children. For the Lord had completely closed all the wombs in Abimelech's household on account of Sarah, Abraham's wife." That is the end of chapter 20. Trying to get this closed up here. So, obviously, it's just me, so we're not going to have the discussion that we had last week. But there are a few things that that I wanted to kind of cover, right? So, a few things that I noticed that were really interesting, right? Is let's see here, trying to find it real quick. Oh, let's see. So, kind of just talking about the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, right? So, um, obviously, Lot's there, right? He convinces these angels um, to come with him, right? Um, and I guess it just kind of shows you, right? So, uh, God said, "Hey, if there's even 10 good people in this city, I'll spare the city, right? Like, I will spare an entire city of sinning, loathsome people if there are just 10 good people in this giant city." And the angels go there, and there are 4, if I remember correctly. And really, I mean, it comes down to Lot, right? Like Lot is really like he's the head of the only good family. So, um, yeah, I mean, it's that entire city. If there had just been a few decent people, they could have saved the entire city. And I guess it just kind of goes to show you, right? If you are an enemy of the world, you are a friend of God. If you are a friend of the world, you are an enemy to God. So it's just kind of like stick true to your word, stick true to the command of God, because in the face of even in the face of insurmountable or seemingly insurmountable evil, right? Because uh, you being just and you being good can have kind of this almost like butterfly effect of ramifications, right? Um, which I mean, I think you kind of see that on a smaller scale in normal life, but obviously at this like bird's eye view that is the Bible, you can kind of see that a lot more, right? You kind of see the promises that are made and the covenants that are kept. Um, so yeah, I mean, I find that super interesting that there wasn't even enough people to save the city, right? Which obviously, right, like I knew that going into it. Um, it's not. I would say that the story of Sodom and Gomorrah are probably one of the more well-known stories in the Bible. But still, it's always interesting to read it. Um, yeah. The other one that I found interesting or even, I mean, I guess kind of disturbing was the the daughters um, sleeping with their father um, was interesting. I don't know my I don't even know what to say about that really, to be honest with you. Um, let's see. I'm trying to find it again. Law Departed. Okay, so it's chapter 19, verses 20 through 38. So let's just kind of let's see here. I'm trying to find and see if what the notes kind of say about it. I'm curious to. Lot's daughters. Okay, so this is like the I can't think of the name of it right now, but the little sub notes on the scripture, right? So Lot's daughters. Oh no, that's no. Is that the right one? Yeah, here it is. Okay, so Lot's daughters, their fiancés now dead, were so concerned about their marriage prospects that they devised a sinful scheme. The plan worked, and both of Lot's daughters became pregnant. By him, their two sons, Moab and Ben Ami, would become the patriarchs of the Moabites and Ammonites, ongoing enemies of God's people. So it just goes, I guess that's the importance of that, right? So, um, ongoing enemies of God's people. When we try to solve God's problems for Him, we only create more problems for ourselves. Yeah. So I like that. I think that's an apt um, deduction, I suppose, right? So they should have just been faithful and maintain God's plan um, instead of choosing to rebel against them. And then, I mean, essentially, right? They got their father drunk and then had sex with him unknowingly. So I mean, they not only do they create bastardized inbred children, but they raped their own father, which is, I mean, that's something in and of itself, right? But um, I guess that's kind of reminiscent of how not the bastardization or the rape, but we often do this sort of thing in our lives, right? Where we tend to think that we have all the solutions and that we don't need to trust in God or his plan or seek his advice or his wisdom or to give it to him and just let be what will be. We try to often forge our own path and form our own plan. And speaking from my own experience, it certainly backfires. um, it certainly has backfired, of course, and I think we can all attest to that. Now, I don't know that I've ever had anything. Uh, I've never had anything close to that big of a mistake, on the part of Lot's daughters. But um, yeah, that's a horrible thing. But yeah, I mean, so I obviously, right, we kind of covered a fair amount today, right? The destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, the covenant between um, Abraham and God, which is one of the more important things to happen in the Bible, right? We kind of talk about circumcision in chapter 17 and kind of what that is for, what that is meant to symbolize, which is, um, always something that's super interesting to kind of. I mean, most people in the United States are circumcised, but you know, I don't know that many people know where that kind of comes from. Um, so it was interesting to see that. Uh, you know, I knew that it came from the Bible, but I never knew the full details, I guess. Um, let's see. I'm trying to think if there's anything really important, anything else. I mean, I guess it goes to show you. So, what I'll say is, all of these people that God finds, right, um, and uses, whether it be Moses or, um, you know, later on with the disciples and Jesus, or Noah or whomever, right? There are always people that you a lot of times almost like least expect, which I find really cool. They're these seemingly like normal guys, or maybe they've made some mistakes in the past, um, and but they come into contact with God one way or another, and they kind of transcend the confines of their own nature and transcend the confines of their own um, failures, I suppose, to kind of become these larger than life vessels through which God affects the world. So um, it's super cool. So it's always super fun to see and to learn the history. So yeah, I mean that's going to be pretty much it for tonight, right? Obviously, I think if we had more people, we'd probably be able to dive a little bit more into some different aspects of it, get some different perspectives. But I mean, life gets busy. So yeah, I mean, I had a good time. I hope that if you're watching this back, you enjoyed it as well. I tried to get a little bit more energetic and get into the characters on video, or not on video, but in the recording. That's how I just read the Bible, right? I like to read those parts where there's dialogue, almost as like a kind of like I would a play, right? It makes it more interesting for me. I think it it helps to get the message across a little bit more for me rather than just reading it in, a boring monotone voice. And if you do that, that's fine too. Right? It's whatever works for you. But for me, I really like conveying the emotion and kind of almost, living that character's experience in my mind's eye. So, but yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for watching it back. We will be back next week, so that'll be Saturday. Oh, let's see, what date is that? Let me double check it real quick. It should be. Let me see here. Get my calendar pulled up. So it will be February 3rd. So February 3rd, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you are around and want to join in on that, then you are definitely welcome to do so. I will drop the Discord link in the comments of this video. If not, then you'll obviously be able to watch it back on YouTube. So I appreciate you either way. You have a good rest of your night, and thank you very much for your time. Bye-bye. Remember, all of us are sinners, yet we are loved by Jesus. I pray that you listen to this message and remember the sacrifice he made so that your suffering would not be eternal, but that your love would be. Amen.